Hello, that's Samuel here, and I'm the host of the 51st Parallel podcast series. I'm recording in a studio of Radio Luz, LUZ, on campus of Wrocław University of Science and Technology. For today's episode, I invited a student from our university whose field of studies is definitely interesting, fascinating, and futuristic, if you ask me. Probably you wonder why I use so many adjectives for the description of this episode. Well, here's the secret. I studied the same thing, and that is why this conversation promises to be a thrilling one for me, and I hope for you too. With all that said, I have only a few words for you. It's going to be great. Enjoy. Hello, and I have a new guest today, and it is Kacper. Hi, Kacper.
Hello.
How do you do today?
I'm well. It's a great day.
Good. It is. Yeah, it is a beautiful winter day, and we're here at the studio recording a podcast. And, well, you know what? Actually, I've recorded quite an introduction, and in this introduction, I shared a secret. The secret is that I study the same thing as you. So let's talk about that a little bit. You are at W9 department here at the university, and tell us, what is your field of studies?
I study aerospace engineering. Right now I'm on a bit of a break to sort out some personal stuff, but I should have been doing my 5th semester right now had it not been for,
Okay, yeah,
business.
Sure. So personally, I really like this field, and what about you? Do you like the thing you're studying?
I mean, it's always been kind of on my radar, engineering, planes, space industry, so yes, I do enjoy it. It was my dream to be able to do something like that, and I was really happy when I saw that they opened this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because probably we should mention that this major just recently appeared here at the university, so it is something new.
Yeah, I am a little bit of a test subject, given that I've enrolled as the first year to ever do so in Wrocław.
Probably we should also mention that the field in general, I mean, like if we're talking about aerospace engineering, it is also quite modern, comparing to some other fields and areas of science and engineering itself.
Well, it's certainly flashy, and I'd say I don't know if it's that much modern than other fields, but it certainly gets a good press, and everyone likes a good futuristic plane.
Let's probably discuss some of the new innovations in that sphere, in that field. Can you remember something?
If you like specifically planes, then I guess the B-21 Raider, the recent unveiling of the new US military bomber, meaning to replace pretty much all the other strategic bombers of the US, is a pretty interesting thing. I mean, there is not much to actually learn about it, given how secret the project is, but I think it's a treat, and it does look like a spaceship.
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, there are some photos on the internet, but again, as you said, there is not that much about this plane. Why is that so? Can you elaborate?
Why is it so secret?
Yes.
One thing to remember is that United States is, I think, one of maybe 3 countries in the world who actually has a fleet of bombers. Maybe China and Russia are the other 2, I think. And those bombers have very specific objectives in mind, especially strategic bombers. So there goes a lot of tech into those, stealth tech, a lot of complicated, in general, technologies and breakthroughs that could make or break a plane, make it either stealthy or not. And even the B-2, the predecessor to the B-21, developed in the 80s, it's still very much secretive. It's exclusively used by the Americans. So I guess they don't want to show their hand too much. That's why we pretty much only have like one photo and a quick video from the unveiling.
No, certainly they don't want to be shown to the world, and there's no surprise. Yeah, considering all the potential threats and some other dangers connected to that. Probably we should also mention that most of the, I'm not sure if that is correct to say most of the breakthroughs and, most of the technologies we have today are somehow connected to the military, but certainly we can say that at least many of them were developed for the military initially, and then they just appeared in our lives, and that's the reality. So yeah, just like the internet.
Certainly, GPS, all of that.
Yeah.
At least there's something good that comes out of the military.
Yeah, that's
It's a bit heartbreaking that the coolest stuff, is made to aid people in killing other people, I guess.
Yeah, unfortunately that is so, but let's be realistic. So that's the way it is, and probably in the future it will change, but not so sure about that. What do you think? Will it change in the future?
I would hope so. Society does evolve constantly, but whether we will be advanced enough to stop killing each other at some point, I don't think that it will happen in our lifetime.
But again, let's move to a more optimistic thing here. And what are some other innovations that have appeared recently?
Yeah, I think it's important to touch on the Artemis launch. Artemis is meant to put a man back on the moon in preparation for further exploration of the solar system, mainly Mars.
That's a little bit crazy. We live in this period where we are just so advanced in one way that we can go to some other planets or moon, right? But at the same time, we know so little about that. And that is interesting because the last time we were on the moon, and moon is our satellite, it is not another planet or something, but still, the last time we were there, it was 50 years ago, approximately, something like that. So just interesting that during that time, nothing happened in like this respect, that we didn't go somewhere. But still, we were preparing, and now we can go there, I guess, right?
Yeah, I guess you could say that there was no point in going to the moon. Again, it's an expensive and very risky mission, and rockets and spaceships aren't just stuff that comes out of the production line. It has to be purpose built, and it's very complicated. But recently, I think the public interest in space travel has been reignited in the last few years, and that's really heartwarming to see, especially with the new sort of private enterprises that are competing in that market. Yes, that's the preparation for the Mars missions, stuff like that is one thing, but I think a big part of that is just showing people that we can still do that.
Probably we also should mention that the time when Americans went to the moon, it was during the space race, so no surprise they did that. Basically, it was not for the scientific purpose. Of course, this aspect was there, but it was more to show that we're, greater than the Soviet Union. So yeah. But now we're going there for this, I believe, for this scientific purpose, and that is, I guess, in my opinion, it is better.
It's great to see, countries collaborate on that. We no longer have, two big players like the US, Soviet Union, but over the years, many more emerged. We have a reserve astronaut in the ESA, a Polish astronaut. So that's...
Yeah, that is
that's
also
nice to
a
see.
hope for the Polish nation to go to
seeing
space.
As Mirosław Hermaszewski recently passed away, that's let's hope that he's a worthy replacement.
And also, as we mentioned before, it is interesting that nowadays we have some private companies also cooperating and making some progress in that field. That is very interesting in my opinion, because like, who would have thought that would happen, right? I mean, that just some companies will appear and just nowadays. What I'm trying to say is that nowadays space is not only for governments and not only for certain countries. Nowadays it is more for the public, the people, right?
Yeah, I mean, private contractors were a thing probably since the beginning of space travel. I know Boeing worked with NASA for a long time before all the other companies. NASA doesn't just build rockets by itself, but it's interesting to see these companies reaching household name status, like SpaceX, and going kind of all in on that. SpaceX isn't only some silent contractor. It boasts its name on the side of the rocket. It flies missions with different companies, maybe research institutes and stuff like that. They lift a lot of satellites into orbit. So yeah, I would have never thought that something like that would happen, and it's certainly interesting to see.
And also, probably the last thing I wanted to say here is that, again, as we said, NASA cooperates with some companies, but also it cooperates with, let's say, individuals or some institutions like universities. For sure, they have some projects with, MIT, Stanford, but that's interesting that it is not only reserved to American universities, but also, I guess, any university can partake of some of the projects.
I mean, yeah, again, space is kind of becoming more democratized. Knowledge is becoming more readily available for everyone. So I guess it was only a matter of time.
You know what? Actually, probably we should also mention another aspect that that all wouldn't have been possible had we not conducted some experiments. And of course, many of these experiments were conducted on animals. So do you want to get into this topic?
Yeah, of course.
That's obvious that humans were not the first ones to go to space.
Yeah, space travel in its first years was very much a trial and error process, and there were no safeguards if something went wrong, so no surprises that governments wouldn't put their own men who were expensive to train as hell, because you've got test pilots, ex-military, people who the governments already spent millions training, then you have to train them again and put them in these expensive pieces of machinery. But yeah, I think, as far as I remember, the first like living organism that was intentionally sent to space were, I think, a few fruit flies.
Yeah, exactly.
V2, captured V2.
Yeah, and probably we should also mention that V2 were like these missiles developed by Germany during the World War II.
Yeah.
And yeah, so, but again, like Germans
again,
were...
ties into that military innovation.
Yeah, and also probably, you know what? Let's also say that some of the Nazi scientists were later working at NASA. Did you know about that?
Yeah, I think it was called Project Paperclip.
Yeah.
And one of them, probably the most notable one, was Werner von Braun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
A man who, I mean, he certainly helped put a man on the moon for the Americans. He's not a very, he's very, I wouldn't want to call him controversial, because I think it's pretty clear-cut that he wasn't the most...
he was in SS.
His conscience shouldn't be the cleanest, but, well, it's all in the past, I guess. He's dead. He's long dead, so... facts are, he was one of the scientists captured by the US. I think the Soviet Union also nabbed a few. It was kind of a joint effort to grab as many as you possibly can.
Yeah. And definitely Americans sort of captured more than the Soviet Union. Yeah, as far as I remember, it went for them, it was more successful than for the Soviets. Yeah. Recently, I watched a like a documentary or something like that about again space travel, and they showed some. They also showed some recorded tape, and it's just funny to see how John F. Kennedy walks there among the scientists, and many of them just have this German accent. So yeah, just another thing to mention. Okay, so we mentioned fruit flies. Fruit flies were the first living organisms, living creatures there in space.
Yeah, I was surprised to learn that their like genetic makeup is similar to humans. That's why they were chosen. Lightweight, small, and surprisingly similar to us when it comes to the, I guess, DNA. I'm not a biologist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. What else did they send there?
Probably the most known are the dogs, but while I think that the Soviets are more well known for the dogs, Americans like their monkeys.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So they.
Do you want to get into this?
Yeah, there were. I think there were six different Alberts, 6 or 5 different monkeys, all named Albert, Albert the First, Albert the Second, and so on. I think it was. I think only the 5th or 6th actually survived the whole flight.
Unfortunately, yes, but I mean, can you imagine why did they do that? I mean, naming the next monkey is Albert. I mean, I have two ideas why they did that. The first one is to commemorate the sacrifice of the first Alberts, and the second one is probably they had 8 Alberts and 15 Johns or something like that.
I guess it
Who knows?
made it sort of easy. Like it's made it very scientific. I would say we'll just get 5 different subjects and all named the same. But yeah, you have to hand one thing to Soviets. They knew how to call their spaceships and their animals.
Okay, do you want to hear another story about animals helping humans or working for humans?
Yeah, hit me with it.
Recently, I read this story about baboon Jack. Have you heard of it?
No.
Okay, so let's begin. It all started in South Africa. There was a man named James Jumper. Jumper was his nickname. I guess we can, and he worked at the railway station there.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess you can you can understand why he was called Jumper. And again, the reason why he was the Jumper is because he was famous for his tricks, and he was jumping between 2 rail cars. But unfortunately, one day the let's say the fortune wasn't on his side, and he lost both of his legs. And after that, I imagine he felt miserable. But someone said to him like, "Hey, let's go to the marketplace." And he went there with someone carrying him, and he bought a baboon. He trained this monkey, and it helped him to just give some signals to the trains, and also probably switch the rail lines or something like that. And it was, I mean, this experiment went well. It was successful. And the monkey was working under his supervision. But what happened one day? One day, of course, some passengers were passing by, and I imagine it to be something like, people just went to the window just to see this miracle, and they were all excited and saying something like, "Look at this! There's a monkey controlling our railway," or something like that.
Yeah.
But of course, like as usual, there is this boring guy who was like, "That's ridiculous. Probably I should report that." And of course, someone reported that, and soon the inspection showed up and decided to fire the monkey. So probably I should also mention that this monkey was working for, I don't remember the exact amount of money this monkey was getting, but I mean that's funny. I wonder, like, why did this monkey need this money? Like, what was it doing with this money anyway? Like, it was getting something like, I don't know, 2 cents or maybe less or more, and half a bottle of beer. And of course, we know that probably this monkey wouldn't mind a beer.
Half bottle of beer. I mean, what are they going to do with half a bottle? I mean, at least give him the full one.
The full one, yeah, sure. Probably. You know what? Probably James was a little bit concerned whether this monkey can work after that.
And yeah, how much does that monkey weigh? That could
I
be
don't know,
like a small child. Maybe it shouldn't drink a whole bottle of beer.
I'm not sure if these, concepts apply here. And also probably also, I also should say that at the time it was a little bit more, not that restricted as it is now.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically anyone could drink beer, smoke some cigars or even something worse. Crazy times it was in the past. That is the story. Did you like it?
Yeah, I mean it's that kind of a funny and heartwarming animal story. I think that I wonder how much truth there is to that. Is it like verifiable, or
you think it's a legend?
More of an urban legend?
I don't know. There is a photo. By the way, if you want to check this, you can just type in the Wikipedia Jack Baboon and you'll see the photo. In the picture there is James without his legs standing near the monkey, and the monkey is controlling something. I mean,
Fair enough. I think monkeys are pretty smart.
Yeah, they are.
We've sent them to space, after all.
Speaking of this moral aspect, I mean, it is, at least it seems to me that it is easier to send fruit flies or cockroaches to space than monkeys.
I mean, certainly the same way we look differently at various animals. I mean, for most people, eating, for example, beef is alright, but you wouldn't eat a dog. You sort of associate different things with different animals. And yeah, but the cockroaches you mentioned were an interesting thing because they were the first organism to conceive offspring aboard a spaceship. And they were actually born, like 30 different cockroaches.
Yeah, and the funny part is that all these animals, I mean, that's also amazing how living organisms can, adapt to different environments. And also, probably we should mention that there was a spider, and this spider just made a web there in space. So that's just interesting that they sort of they found their way to adapt to space and zero gravity environment.
I just like the approach that the space agencies took at that time. I'm like, let's put something on the spaceship and see what it does. I think there was an experiment where NASA sent just an exorbitant amount of water, and I can't remember what even the goal was, but I think they were meant to send just huge amount of water and release
what do we
something
send
like
now?
that.
Yeah. What do we send today? Let's send some water.
Yeah, well, I guess we have the money and hardware to do, so why not?
Sure. I mean, and that's quite expensive. I mean, I don't remember the exact amount of money you need to spend to lift 1 kilogram to space, but it's impressive. I mean, it is, I don't know, at least maybe $10,000 or maybe more. And again, I don't remember exactly.
And yeah, all those experiments, I mean, they do show interesting things, especially in those early days. We didn't know that much. So, for example, the fruit fly thing, I think it was to kind of prove that we were able to withstand radiation. And I guess a few fruit flies are better than experimenting on people.
That's funny to think of that, because before some trains were designed and actually built, there were some people who believed that it is impossible to travel in these trains at the speed of 30 kilometers per hour or something like that, because they believe that all the oxygen will just get out of the train and people will just suffocate.
Yeah, and it happens every time with every big milestone. I remember reading about the Bell X-1, I think was the first plane to ever cross the the sound barrier with Chuck Yeager on board, at least, reportedly, because now it's kind of contested whether he was actually the first one. But yeah, people were doubtful. They didn't know whether you really could do that, whether something weird happens and you just are not able to physically live through that. And well, as it turns out, there is a lot of different things that happen when you cross Mach 1, and but that has to do more with aerodynamics and lift, so you have to account for that when designing a plane. But yeah, I'm kind of interested in seeing when do we hit the ceiling of what's actually possible.
I know where we are not going to hit the ceiling in all the conspiracies that people just develop to prove that some new technologies are actually scary and will kill us. 5G.
That's one thing. That actually reminded me of something that ties into that whole stealth bomber thing from the beginning. Around the time that the Americans tested the B-2 Spirit, so you might know it as the triangular stealth bomber, around the time it was tested, the number of UFO sightings increased in that area.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I can definitely imagine that. Okay, I guess we can, round up here. Thank you for coming. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm really happy you had time to come here and talk to me.
It was a pleasure.
Okay, bye everyone.
Bye.